What's up, everyone? Zoe here, joined by Nekra and Uber. And as you just saw, the signups are open for the FACEIT Leagues. We just saw two teams clashing with a lot of players we weren't familiar with. And OWCS, just like FACEIT League, is a great opportunity, a great platform for those players to get their name out there. So even you, Costa, if you're watching, you could be part of the FACEIT Leagues, and maybe you even make it to an actual tournament.
They're in. They're already in. I mean, these guys are so renowned that FACEIT tweeted that they had signed up. It's like a veritable red carpet.
I love that.
That's right. You know what I love about the FACEIT League, though, is that it's broken up into skill tiers, right? And I actually had a big chat with like the guys putting it together, and it's quite sophisticated the way that they try and sort of have you in like a fairly balanced league. And obviously the Swiss format means that you're playing against teams with the same record as you, and as time goes on, as the system sort of learns where you sort of land, it creates those more competitive matches quite regularly. So it's an incredible experience. You don't have very many of these like non-games at all. The system is generally designed to prevent these wide teams or like wide experiences, I suppose, between rosters. So really recommend it. Even if you're just if like bronze, silver, gold, doesn't matter. You can jump in and still find games that set towards your level and have a great time. It is sick because it's plugged into the game. Like lobbies are done for you. Like it's all kind of click and go. So we've been asking for this for a long time. I remember like the first couple of years of Overwatch being out, we were like, get us into the API. Let's get like a FACEIT-esque system, or it's finally here, and they're here for the long term. So check it out, get involved. I think it's well worth the time.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see those games being covered in the not-so-distant future. For now, however, we're shifting our focus again onto our last match of the day, Citrus Nation and Daybreak. Both sporting rosters with well-known faces coming from collegiate contenders, calling all heroes, you name it. Now, of course, looking at Citrus Nation, there is a bunch of names which obviously should ring a bell. Lethal, played with the London Spitfire. We know Tap as well, part of the Uprising Academy. They've played in many more teams, so there's some good name value we have on Citrus Nation.
I remember like Tap on the Storm, the Harrisburg collegiate team, I think at one point. That team obviously had a really close game against Luminosity. Let's talk about Daybreak here, because obviously this is a team with some exciting prospects. They obviously didn't make it into the main event in stage one, but they've had great showings in Calling All Heroes, for example, and they're fighting for their chance now to make that main event. Some slight changes to this roster. And they obviously had the unenviable job of going up against Timeless in their first group match. And obviously that was tough for them here, but I think there's a lot of opportunities. They have, though, Rose, I think you probably agree, found themselves in the group of death.
Yeah.
In state.
It's pretty bad. I mean, you say an unenviable position of going up against Timeless, and I raise you yet another unenviable position of going up against Luminosity. And sadly, the winner of this match, yes, they get a chance to keep their tournament run alive, to make it into the main event, but they're going up against Timeless, which also just doesn't feel good. So yeah, I'd say this is a group of death.
It's a rough group to come out on top, so for them to make it look competitive against a Timeless, that's already a good start. Now, for now, however, they have to go up against each other, and I see our viewers, they're split quite evenly in their predictions.
I think that's very interesting. Look, we are talking about Citrus Nation, who got a map off Luminosity in a pretty close game, and in general have always been a fixture and have always been a team that's had a decent shot at advancing to the main event. They missed out on the main event last time, but they also, I believe, had a really difficult group. This, to me, this Citrus Nation roster are absolutely knocking on the door of that top four. They really just need to be able to sort of put it together a little bit more. They've got a ton of experience, and obviously you remember Lethal from, like the Spitfire, I think it was. So pretty storied individuals, at least sort of in perspective, I think, against the rest of the field. Daybreak, a lot to prove, but they've shown what they're capable of in this and other competitions in the past, Rose.
They really have, and I think that both of these teams, this is really a story of kind of coming to age, I guess, because both Daybreak and Citrus Nation fall under that same category of getting so close to making it into that main event, yet just one step away from being able to do that. So another shot of redemption here for both of them to be able to try to make that main event, but I think it's so tough when you take a look at the opposition that's ahead of them. But focusing on the task at hand, I think both of these teams are also so evenly matched, it could really go either way.
Yeah, generally, I think that's what people at home are kind of feeling. Both these teams find themselves having to really go above and beyond to get out of this group in the first place. So the Luminosity or Timeless would have to fall at their hand. That is a big job. First and foremost, though, it's about staying alive in this Group B. And here we go, straight into Nepal Shrine. Will be the Orisa composition here for Citrus Nation. Lethal on the Sojourn. HK is going to be on the Echo.
I'm so excited about this because in stage 1, HK's Echo was a really big standout on this team. We didn't get a chance to see it too often, but knowing how much Echo these teams have liked to play in this current stage, I'm so excited to see if HK's Echo can make a difference here in this matchup.
Break line aside as much as you can from that Sojourn position, and then you're off to the races. Already HK goes in, dispenses some of those cooldowns. That's a very scary prospect here for Astro to deal with, because even with the armor, the Echo can be a problem. Lethal, though, will clip her wings. HK down. Lethal now getting a bit of attention from FACEIT, having that slide to get away, and very quickly, Kinky Ladder comes to the rescue. Love that. Love that. That is just... Love that. Thank you. I believe that is neutral, for those wondering.
How many names have we had now? Sexy Man, 69, yep. Kinky Ladder, yep. 4, specifically number 4.
Well, still, that was a great swift step from them to keep Lethal in the game. After Lethal had been able to drive HK out of the fight. She is still, though, persistent. Tri-shots heading in towards the point. Javelin dodged. That poke damage, though, without constant attention means HK's going to have a tough time staying in the fray for any extended period. Sticky bombs there, kind of sprayed across. No one target for them to catch on to, and oh, she needs healing. Thunder goes down. Amadou is able to find a pulse bomb available now, and the recall comes out, and FACEIT could be a decent target, but Daybreak are already in a bit of trouble here.
Ooh, Orisa, though, maybe a bit more staying power in this fight.
Fortify has to be used there. Great Suzu timing. Actually stops the Javelin from taking effect. HK's going to get knocked out of Duplicate. Just unable to find any advantage for Daybreak in that window.
Well, Daybreak now also, having already taken control over the point. They just want to try to keep advantage of it for as long as they can. And this is pretty even footing here, Mitch. Yeah, Daybreak had to expend a couple of ultimates here, but the percentages was quite frankly even. Citrus Nation, though, having the upper hand when it comes down to this ultimate economy, they get the pick of their poison of what they want to throw at this next fight. You can already see Lethal getting set up on an off angle to try to get this overclock.
Daybreak had to spend a lot in that last fight. But here they go once more. HK looking again for an insta burst. She's not able to find it. Ball of Steve sitting back a little bit now as you can see the Echo getting lower and lower. Astro finding some easy damage there. But there is nowhere for Thunder to go. She got skewered. And the follow-up damage from Astro was there. Both support ultimates used by Citrus Nation, but they set themselves up in a pretty commanding spot. We'll even have an overclock to take into the next.
Yeah, not having to use that there or the Terror Surge either means that Citrus Nation still have those tools to work with, and they're in last fight territory here. With Daybreak Thunder, she does have this sound barrier, which will be a really nice way to get back into this fight, but this just could be it here when they come in for the next one.
Yeah, they might need more, that's the problem. Lethal wants the preempted engagement here. It gives Citrus Nation a couple more extra percentage. It does force a disengage, but oh, that's not good at all. Melaphobia caught by the rail. They were standing stock still and everything. Lethal smiling from ear to ear after a bit of a freebie comes over, and now sound barrier only for 3 players, and Daybreak can't even touch that. It's heartbreaking.
It's so rough because I think that the Echo, while it looks so good into a composition like this with the Orisa, because, if you're able to fly past the Fortified, then you're able to beam down a target. I think you still run into the issue where you've got Lethal playing a hit scan DPS, and Lethal's one of those players that I feel like you should never give those keys to, because I think you always will be on the receiving end of a railgun shot or like just a headshot from an Ashe. I feel like Lethal always showed up in a big way when we were able to see those hit scans from him.
Oh, it was an excellent round from the Sojourn. I mean, that headshot towards the end, though, that's devastating. Okay, so we have a Genji from HK. Okay, in a Kiriko composition, so she will have to be a little careful against some of this poke. Especially the trace, like the constant tracer pressure. Obviously, Lethal's going to be a problem. Straight away, Melaphobia, though. They lock onto a target, and HK gets in there. Great Genji looks. Lethal already plucked out of the mix. But Daybreak lose their Lucio. They want to try and trade up and get one of their own, but Jacob stay scarce of any of that damage. And I think Daybreak will settle for a point cap as it gets flipped, but Astro will look to challenge this.
Astro's going to make it to that point first because it's all about trying to win the war, not just the battle at hand. But Astro's hoping to find Melophobia.
HQ in trouble, big trouble. I think HQ was hoping to commit there onto the Lucio at some point, but couldn't quite find the damage on Jacob and didn't have a Swift Strike available. Either way, Citrus Nation now start with control of the point.
It just felt so messy because it did look disjunct. Like, what do you want to go after? Which target? What a mag grenade. Did you see that eat into the Lucio? Oh my god.
Yes, and it does have some target-seeking capability.
Yeah, but...
Still, good window there from Lethal to get that stuck. Thunder just says, okay, I'm going to just walk backwards now and let this expire. Faded and HQ, look how low they are. My goodness.
Faded.
Big stick from Amadou. Faded down. Is Tracer unmarked right now?
It's so difficult to keep that in mind too when...
It's Lethal. Yeah, you're dead here. Oh, okay, wait a minute. You're not supposed to win though, it's Lethal. My goodness. I think there was a Suzu involved there, a little bit of shenanigans, but either way. That is audacious. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, stop. They're already dead.
Man. Melophobia will switch to the Widow. We'll find neutral.
Okay.
Back to the Tracer we go.
Oh man, I mean, that was enough of a stagger though that this is, again, last fight here for Citrus Nation. Daybreak has yet to have a say in this fight. They don't really have a whole lot to speak on either when it comes to these ults.
There's no good reason to give up the point if you're Citrus Nation. It doesn't matter if you're ahead. You just almost took Fader down instantly. The amount of damage here is frankly filthy. Terra Surge there, most of Daybreak dispersed away from that, but Fader eventually drops. It is so hard for Daybreak to keep their Winston alive. Now HQ probably has to look for a Hail Mary blade. Here it comes, and there it goes.
It's how are you gonna able to get anything done there without something maybe like the Ana to help bolster that up? It's always gonna be a Naked Blade. It's gonna be a Winston to come back into touch with the Primal, but it's just a matter of moments. What a clean round, Mitch.
Very clean. Very, very clean. Citrus Nation, obviously, like, they issue the challenge to Daybreak. Daybreak has to figure out how to play into this Orisa comp with the Winston, which, like we saw in the previous game, isn't easy. Like, you really have to be switched on, and you need to be setting your DPS players up for success. Like, HQ, she switches over to the Genji for that particular round. But even in situations where, you know, she gets Jacob down to like 40 health or something, she's not able to follow up, she's not able to chase the Lucio. Very, very difficult round there for Daybreak to get the potential out of their heroes, at least out of their team composition. And yeah, trying to play Winston into that Orisa comp is not easy. You are like 40-60, I think, a lot of the time, unless you can really outskill and have like very ironclad sort of cohesion. It's an uphill battle.
I mean, who is Goldfish? That team made it look easy to be able to do something like that. And I think every time we ended up seeing a dive in from Daybreak, Faded was just public enemy number one. And so Winston jumps in, Winston gets deleted, and by the time you don't have that tank anymore, everybody else on the team is so easy to pick off. And it's not to say that Faded is doing anything wrong. I just think that it's all coming up right here for Citrus Nation, knowing who they need to actually target focus. You see how they even pincered Faded there? That's a great example of just how heads up Citrus Nation are playing against that dive.
There's a moment there from Lethal, backed up on a Suzu, of course. That's a bit of audacity here. I think it's, you know, Citrus Nation feel like they can push a little bit harder and maybe try and, you know, turn these into blowouts at times. And it's going to be up to Daybreak here to shore up a lot of their fundamentals to actually earn that respect. I think that's probably priority number one for them heading into the next map. Again, very deathmatchy, very puggy games. Here we saw on Nepal. But at some point, like the individuals like Lethal, for example, is that...
That's right.
Okay.
That's not broken.
That's...
Not broken.
Well, look, I mean... I got nothing, really. Daybreak, again, they are not able... Here's the thing, like, they may be finding kills here and there, but they're definitely not winning any fights outright. They're finding some reasonable engagements. I think there's like one point, like, Melophobia switches to a Widowmaker in Spawn, finds a kill. They still can't really convert on that because they just had, you know, HQ picked off by Lethal. So, you know, even when they are finding kills, they're not in context that they can actually snowball them into a player advantage and then into a point capture. So they are happening. The data there is not very granular. It's very much like a pulled straight from the API, KD, and not exactly the look you want, but you can't be thinking about that too much as Daybreak. You want to move on to the next round here and hope to come up with a strategy that's just like very broadly effective here, and maybe one that gives you a sense of comfort as well.
Control is also less forgiving when it comes down to how much time you actually have. Like, the stats look so different, I think, if it's one-sided on something like a hybrid or a control, or not control, we just played that. You know, a hybrid or a push. Yeah, or an escort, exactly. Things that have those delineated attack and defensive sides. And I think that when we finally get a chance to actually move towards that, we will see that, well, I think that gap's going to close quite a bit in those stats. But also, we get to see a little bit more about how Daybreak actually wants to set up for some of these executions. And Paraiso is one of those maps I think you could try to do the dive again.
I'll be blunt. Like, there are obviously plenty of things that Daybreak can do here, but this is looking like a pretty severe mismatch. If you think back over the Shrine round and the Village round, it wasn't very close. It was a little bit of clowning going on. So, I mean, obviously picking a good comp is, the first step here for Daybreak, but making that work against a team like Citrus Nation that aren't going to respect you and that are maybe going to overreach at times to try and find these advantages, you need to be able to punish that. And if you can't punish that, you're going to get thrashed. You're going to get thrashed like you did in that first map. I'm glad to see the sort of Ana Brig composition. I think that's going to suit a team, especially defensively here, but also can really help protect your backline. I think, like, the HQ on the defensive echo here is fine. We've seen teams start with this, then switch off to something like the Cassidy, for example. It's a little bit more defensive. HQ, at times, will be relied on to go in solo and create these solo kill opportunities. She's got a mechanical skill, clear to see. She's going to have to execute here on that burst combo and get player advantages set up for Daybreak.
But it doesn't just fall on her, right? Like, this is still where we have to see a lot of this coordination that is required of this Winston composition to actually come to fruition. Like, yes, HK can get the execute, but you also have to have the jump in from the Winston, maybe even a shield, maybe an armor pack coming in from Thunder to really help make sure that that Echo feels emboldened to go after these more aggressive picks.
So far, Citrus Nation take the bridge already, so Daybreak wanting to give up that part of the map, which can be a little bit scary against an attacking Winston composition. Now you have to play from either this ledge here or the low ground. It can be a bit awkward, but Daybreak look to renew their claim to this part of the map. Lethal's hunting, though. Let's have a listen to Citrus Nation now. Comfortable first map. Let's see how they put it together on attack.
Hello. Let's leave.
Just keep it.
No. I'm gonna cool down.
Jack, can you fire me?
Yeah.
Come on.
Go back my faded.
Yeah, I'm just pushing forward. Trap.
This bro just called me faded.
Oh my days, that's so embarrassing.
Monkey behind.
That's not cool, bro.
Yeah, can we call the monkey behind?
I thought we was tight.
I don't even know why he says faded. I've never played with him.
Do y'all ever think about that guacamole hat from Despicable Me 2?
No.
Well, as you can see, very serious, very tight, very structured and restrained comms here from Citrus Nation. At least someone is like, hey guys, there's a monkey behind us, shall we do something about that? But in general, Citrus Nation, comfortably leaning in now to this second phase of the map.
I do know the guacamole hat, though, from Despicable Me. And if you haven't seen that scene, it's very funny.
I don't know if I have, but I feel like I've seen that movie. Damn.
You'll get it. I think you'll get it as a dad. It'll be a funny scene for you.
Why are they bringing up the guacamole? Nah, that's a nice nano. Nicely done. Beautiful from Baller Steve. Keeps HK in the fight. And now she's hitting like a truck. Gonna have a dupe of the Ana here. That is a very good sleep, Lethal. Nicely done. HQ with the nano. That'll expire, and then she'll be left exposed while sleeping. And it's very comfortable here for Lethal to drop to the low ground and give an extra nano over to Jacob, who will use it to belt Melophobia's brains in.
Well, that's one way to do that. That sure is one way to handle things. I feel like I blinked.
3 ults still.
Oh.
That's good. Just to keep on playing. I mean,
that is good.
I mean, the nastiest kill I saw was on that first point where I think Lethal got mid-air stickies on HK and was able to finish her off. So
it's just nasty. At this point, like, okay, the pick on the Tracer is actually quite nice because it's going to give Daybreak a bit of breathing room here. They can start to think about how they actually want to utilize some of these ultimates. Ooh, big ante.
There's a primal here. HQ with the dupe off the Ana. Nicely done. Fade a big primal. Lethal just whizzing overhead as HQ now looks for a target to damage. Nice fight win here for the defenders. They can set up behind this. Citrus Nation spend a fair bit as well. We'll have to recoup.
So that's where like the big stray pick onto the Tracer like really has paid off. Not only do you finally get a chance to use some of these ults you've held onto, but like here's the setup that Daybreak was wanted on this Streets phase. Go on these buildings. Oh, it's just
Beautiful. Yeah, she just whip shot Astro into Tuesday. That is sick.
I love that. Oh my god, that was such a good pick. The whip shot. Now they all have to think, I think twice. Like maybe Citrus Nation just got a little too comfortable, honestly. Like Daybreak are still playing hard.
Yeah, this is great. You better jump out. Yeah, there's not much you can do there. Perfect target as well. Neutral brought down by the pulse bomb. Now, though, Daybreak had to get back to safety. And yeah, the focusing beam there from Lethal didn't take too much to bring HQ down. She was very low from just incidental poke damage, which is hard to do with a Tracer Echo composition. I think there was some right clicks for the from there.
Good
Can you
sleep.
follow up on that sleep?
I don't know if you care about that, though. I think it's like just stem the bleeding a little bit, buy some time, and here's the full 5v5.
Lethal dupes Anana. I think Sleep Dart got thrown out there. Not sure if there was a connect. Rally from Thunder. But Astro is able to break through that shield pretty easily. Faded has to jump on out. Melophobia still harrying the attackers around the cart. And we see Lethal's time in dupe form is over. Ball of Steve, though, getting brought down. This dive by Astro has decimated Daybreak's backline. And now, really, it's about walking it in.
Okay, second point captured now. Citrus Nation still have over 3 minutes to get through this third phase. And usually this is where the going starts to get really tough for the attacking team, just because of, again, typical spawns are very close, but Astro's creating so much space. Doesn't get a chance to use the primal though.
Yeah, that burst damage from Echo can be really hard to preempt. So maybe there's a wall where Astro wants to primal there. I'd be a little surprised given how far back the rest of the team is. You don't have a chance to respond to that anyway because of the multiplicative damage that comes in from focusing beam when you're low, and the burst from the bombs. Speaking of which, Ball of Steve suffering that exact same issue. Focusing beam claims the Ana now. Faded has much less support. HQ opts to dupe the Winston, so an extra tank in play and Lethal gets zapped out of the sky.
We're seeing just the power of the Winston against this Brigitte too. Actually forcing out the rally. Wow.
This might work though. I think Lethal can get back to the fight soon enough with how close the spawn is. Astro has to primal here, but this is a better spot to use it than in that previous fight. Looking for Ball of Steve, and the sleep is good. Astro will be left to stew for a time on that high ground, but the cart's still moving up. We do have Neutral coming back in with a nano boost as well. Well, would have been nice if Astro was alive.
And now back to the spawn room. Back to the drawing board. You know what?
Back to Dionysus with you.
Okay, well, Lethal has the duplicate now, so could go for the Winston. It could also be just an Ana dupe, as we've seen most of the time when Ana's on the menu. Just a good first sleep, or even just an anti, but okay.
It's looking much better here. So this is like a forced duplicate from Lethal, and they're going to get eliminated instantly.
That.
Yeah, Melophobia's been causing a lot of problems on the high ground by flanking, and HQ's also been thrusting, in as Echo with those cooldowns every now and then. So Citrus Nation are fighting on two fronts pretty constantly. The Tracer flank pressure's been excellent.
It has been, and it did force Lethal into this awkward position of like using the duplicate and then not getting any value, immediately going back to spawn, and Daybreak has wasted so much time off of this clock now. Only a minute left here for Citrus Nation.
So Astro gets that nano finally, but Lethal's already gone down. Melophobia with the first kill in a fight yet again, and they've found Jacob with the pulse as well. This is beautiful. Not only are you finding these eliminations, but you're doing it after Citrus Nation invest big ultimates and trying to have like a 5-player strategy play out. This has gotten a lot cleaner over the last couple of minutes, and Citrus Nation are struggling. They are floundering.
I would almost want to see if maybe Astro would be willing to go over to something like the Orisa, because that's where Daybreak did struggle to make that dive work, is when they had to go up against a more coordinated ball of characters. But it's just going to be the Winston so close to that Primal Rage for a final fight.
You can also play Cassidy here if you're lethal. That might be one option. There's the duplicate from HQ. It's over. Lethal able to end that. Jacob here handing out those heal packs. Astro needs to juke this sleep dart. Ball sleeve. Lovely shield dance. That's what we're looking for. Astro with primal though, so they'll be able to pick themselves back up with a vengeance. 10 seconds left in the round and HQ's dead, so there's no burst damage. Faded sleeping in primal right now. So Neutral's also able to find a key sleep on the Winston. Melophobia are in trouble. I'm going to be able to win that battle out pretty handily. Now HQ doesn't have a lot of space to move. That's being taken from them even as we speak. Here's the Primal. Dangerous here for Baller Steve. They are very low. Can they dispense that nano quickly? They can. They send her over to Faded, who instantly pays it back with interest with a kill on a Jacob. Again, Melophobia returns to the fray. Neutral a little bit frightened here, and the pulse is good. A big bit of damage carried over onto Astro here. So Daybreak are going to complete what looks like a hold here, unless Amadou can do something pretty spectacular. Melophobia dancing. Amadou staying safe. And that will be that. Daybreak hold off Citrus Nation right at the end of the map.
It's so close to the end of the road, though. And now, as after Citrus Nation had a lightning fast pace to make it to basically the end of that second point. But Daybreak, they really did get their act together, not only to have that great hold at the end of second, but also to have this hold now. And it gives themselves a win condition to get themselves on the board in this series. The dive looked good. I think especially when they were able to really focus up and take advantage of maybe the lack of coordination that Citrus Nation was having. That's really where they started to shine.
Lethal was very punishing at the start of this map. That echo play was very clean. But later, it really became about Melophobia and, you know, how they combine with a lot of these, you know, aggressive upfront defensive dives by Daybreak. They were always flanking. They were always good for at least one. And very rarely were they getting traded. They'd be able to recall to safety, and they'd be able to carry on the fight a little bit later. A couple of key moments there as well. Thunder, she hits a nice whip shot on Astro, basically just ending the Winston instantly. Those things really matter. They really add up. Yeah, over like a long round. That was like Max Rain's whip shot, I think, and obviously Winston already used the jump to get up there, so it's his most vulnerable window. Daybreak have paved the way here for themselves to win this map, but this attack, it needs to have claws.
It has to have good coordination, and it has to happen quickly. And the only way you're really going to do that is making sure that you continue to call those targets. And even better, maybe somebody on Citrus Nation just overextends, and you're able to punish that. That was so close.
Yeah, I guess the question is, like, have Daybreak earned the respect of Citrus Nation after that defensive round? I want to suggest probably. We'll see now what they can do. They have to be the ones that can coordinate these dives. And so far, you see Citrus Nation much less interested in giving up that high ground bridge for free.
I mean, Lethal is just the focus at the moment. Already got so low. Amadou as well is under a ton of fire. And if you're able to remove one of those DPS from the board, that's critical.
Yeah, by brute force, Daybreak have taken the bridge now. Melophobia just making sure that no one attempts to renew their positioning like Astro is here. So they'll be warded off very quickly. A little dangerous here for Lethal. About to be pressured down by Melophobia, who is fairly low, and nice bio-nade there from neutral. The follow-up damage was good, but it was an easy kill for Astro to find after that.
A little bit of a stagger onto the Winston.
Yeah, Fader got caught there. I guess they couldn't jump out either way. Solid hold so far, and another stagger kill here could be big. Nice job. HQ's able to get in there and find Lethal. Now Astro feeling much less comfortable playing from this spot, and Amadou can't get away. A big overextension. You called it, Rose, from Citrus Nation.
I think they just said they're getting too confident or comfortable, and that's providing these tiny little openings that Daybreak is absolutely going to take advantage of. So that's going to be this first tick easily. There should be a recontest coming in here from Citrus Nation when they have ultimates to expend, especially this Nano.
Here we go. Nano straight away from Astro. The sleep is a little bit too late from Baller Steve. Again, HQ finds an important echo elimination. Melophobia at 40 HP, but no one's looking at them right now. Until Jacob whips around and cleans it up with a mace. Daybreak down to just 2 players and Faded sleeping on the job here, so this will be an interrupted cap as HQ comes out of dupe and quickly heads back to spawn.
But there is still one opening, and Daybreak can still find those. Like, there's still 2 minutes left on the clock. They have ultimates to spare now. And they pretty, like, neatly got out the Nano as well as that Pulse Bomb from Citrus Nation. So maybe come in here, deal with the duplicate from Lethal right away. That can be very telegraphed at times with how aggressive Lethal is played.
Dangerous. Lethal goes in, doesn't have a flight cooldown now though, so lacking mobility has to do for safety. This will at least give enough time for that flight cooldown to come online again. But the primal was good, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there was a bio-nade involvement there. This time it's Melophobia to find a pick. It's the Ana going down, and with Amadou out of the picture here, Astro has to be careful. Asleep. Again, a second too late, but Astro is out of the fight for now. That means that Jacob's very exposed here. Primal from Fader is just going to brute force the issue. Astro can't do too much about it. Is there going to be a chase on this Echo? Oh, I like the idea, Faded. Can't quite get the job done, but Citrus Nation have to regroup.
They have to give up another tick first, though, before they do that, and that's going to buy time for the rally.
HQ's able to get away. Just barely gets out of that fight. The rally helping in a big way, but Thunder doesn't quite have the mobility. Not spry enough here to avoid the damage of Astro. Pulse bomb here for Amadou. Still taking right clicks across the map from FACEIT, but again, Citrus Nation are able to set up here. Oh dear, I think that was an assisted environmental kill just quietly, but Melophobia off the map.
And that's forces of the pulse bomb though too, as Amadou's able to find Baller Steve. But this is it, Mitch. 30 seconds left. That's all the Daybreak have to try to get this final third of the pie, and they have nothing in the tank right now in terms of ultimates. Good for them. Citrus Nation kind of doesn't either, but this nano from Kinky Ladder could be just the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, for Astro it means more staying power. Can be a bit more aggressive, which is something that Citrus Nation have trended towards anyway. Some pressure on the high ground here. Baller Steve extremely low though, and there it is. Here comes to the nano, and Baller Steve was, I mean, a hair's breadth from being eliminated as it was. HQ, well-timed duplicate. It would have been the end of him otherwise. Good sleep to follow up on Astro here. Now has to group up with Melophobia. Good pulse. Happy with that, but Astro healthy enough to be healed straight back up and get into the fight here. Citrus Nation with a chokehold on this defense. At the end of the day, nothing that Daybreak can do. Amadou to clean up the round. And that'll be that. It's a 2-0 thus far.
It's a 2-0, and Mitch, it's starting to look like it's not a very close 2-0. After what we ended up seeing for the first round, I was like, okay, maybe we've got some hope here. And the chat as well predicted to be such an even split between who they thought would be able to take this match. But Citrus Nation is coming up on top on every single one of these team fights. I don't know how much the KD really changed either, if we look at the stats after this map.
It probably got a bit better, but I would say that this hasn't turned into the thrashing that I sort of, portrayed it as after the first map. Definitely more competitive here from Daybreak. Like, in general, I was quite happy to see that sort of play on the defensive side. They really started to come together on that defense towards the end of the map, albeit a very hard part of the map for attackers to play into in general, especially when they are still trying to force that echo composition, still trying to play that Winston. When it came to their attacking side, there were a couple picks here and there, but not nearly frequent enough. And yeah, we asked the question, like, okay, they defend well. Can they put together a coordinated dive when they fundamentally have like a positional disadvantage based on how the attack and defense dichotomy works? The answer is no.
Which is a shame, right? Because I think that they were provided a couple of openings that, like, any good team is going to capitalize on. And they're here for a reason. But I think that when it just comes to this matchup, the dive has looked more coordinated out of Citrus Nation, and even if it's not going to be the dive versus dive, I wonder if there's going to be enough flexibility from Daybreak as a team to be able to try something different.
We actually saw, obviously we saw a fair few different picks, on Nepal, but, maps like this, you can't really play the more static compositions. I don't even really like the Sigma look here. I feel like you are very much priced into, at least until the end of the map. You can switch to the Orisa-based comp towards the end of the map, right?
Right.
And that tests your coordination in a different way. And if your opponents are playing a dive setup, yeah, you're stronger in, like, a brawl, but you're never going to get that. Like, the
but I'm thinking ahead to, like, the next couple of maps you're going to have in a series. Because you might not be able to play the dive on every map up to, that we might have.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm like, okay, but where is that flexibility going to come in? Does that exist to give Daybreak a true shot at giving themselves a map in the series?
I suspect that the next map probably will suit. I think it'll be Esperanca, so you can definitely play the Winston comp there. Is it strictly better than the Orisa? No, but if you have like a coordination advantage, that's a different story. See here, like the KD, obviously, a very different story being told. Like, generally, and I think a lot of this, gets generated in the last part of the defensive half from Daybreak, but they looked like, they ostensibly looked good there. Definitely that sort of chasm that we saw in map 1 is sort of shrunken considerably. But this is a Citrus Nation selection. Esperanca coming up. And I'm hearing we have some substitutions for Daybreak.
Ooh, Putter. Okay, so H-Key gonna be taking the bench, and Putter will be taking her place. So maybe not gonna go for the Echo or the Genji. And like, I didn't necessarily hate any of those picks, but I think that maybe you might not be wanting to go for a Winston in that case, or if you are running the Winston, maybe you're just looking for a different opportunity to run, maybe like a Tracer and a Sojourn, or a Tracer and a Cassidy. Something else that Putter might be able to provide.
So in Europe, we saw the Junker Queen comp played. I think it was against the Winston setup? I mean, the Orisa. So that is an option. I really do think it's more of a specialist's angle to take. Like, if you have, really been able to shore up that comp and develop it pretty extensively, then you can find success with that. I think we actually saw that winning out. But in general, it can be hard to play it against the Winston. The Winston wants to avoid the Junker Queen at all costs, of course. But can use that, high ground to their advantage in order to evade the pressure that the Queen can bring. We might see hit scan here for Putter. So that's obviously something that Daybreak didn't really try for. Obviously, it was more like the Tracer Echo comp, and that was what Melophobia and HQ, they were sort of on that plan. So it's good to see that there is a Sojourn option for Daybreak. Lethal and Armady, though, still want to play Echo Tracer here. With the wide open expanses, I'm a little surprised to see it, but you can play around this central building like you would on Iconvola defense, I suppose.
And we've seen some Echo just take to the ground to have the same type of impact, using mostly the flying capabilities as a mobility tool to just take a different angle. So yeah, I think it could still work here, and it gives you the opportunity to have that escape mechanism too against the opposing Winston.
Yeah, on face, Daybreak might have a stronger composition here. Citrus Nation, obviously, they do have a Kiriko set up. They don't have like an Ana Brig look this time around. So they can't deal with the dive millies effectively, but Melophobia falls to a Winston, which is always a bit of an odd one to see as a first kill come up. Big pressure on the Ana now. That was a sleep dart thrown out to no avail. But Thunder is at least able to deal with Jacob, who piled in there with Faded. Yeah, that has to be traded out at the very least for Citrus Nation. They're able to get that done. Astro a little bit low, but you're fully committed here if you're Citrus Nation. There is no turning back at this point in the fight. And Amadou can't chase Baller Steve down. Melophobia, great job at relieving the pressure on the Ana.
That's great, and Kinky Glider does not have a good target to Swift Step to, except finally maybe a bit of a reprieve there. That was so risky though, because I think if the Lucio gets caught out there too, then this is even more progress that Daybreak gets to make. But already off to a good start. And with a couple of ultimates coming online, they could also keep this lead. Like that Nano, that Rally, they're up fast.
Yep. Now they're going to have them in just a moment here. Melophobia, great pressure. Swift Step forced out of neutral at the start of the fight. Always a good sign. Sticker bombs, though, almost take their toll, and Melophobia has nowhere to go after the fact that Putter nails one into Amadou. Do you see neutral finding the one? Aggressive trades back and forth, but we have a Brig and a Lucio for each team respectively in play right now. The Rally could go a long way for Thunder, but Putter gets lasered down. There's no time for that Rally healing to actually take hold. And I don't think Melophobia has really much to do here anymore. Sorry, wait, how did that happen? I think Faded just ignored Jacob and right-clicked Lethal. That's huge.
It's been so scrappy. Both of these teams have not really had a good setup opportunity to execute a cohesive game plan. It's kind of been, okay, well, here's Nano, see what you can get done with it, and now let's go in. I've got Kitsune Rush, and then I have a sound barrier. Citrus Nation have a lot to be able to throw at this fight.
No joy from the pulse here for Amadou. Faded dives in very low. About to be a lot lower. The focusing beam gets in there. Faded's able to get away. Great healing, I think, from Baller Steve there. Either way, Faded able to stand tall for now. Here's the pulse of Melophobia. It's good. Citrus Nation down the Winston. Ana dupe. Bionade thrown in. The follow-up, though, it's speculative at best. Baller Steve, though, is picked up because there are kunai shots from an off angle. That's another one for neutral. They are heating up. And Citrus Nation can keep going, even though they lost Astro at the start of the fight. Eventually, though, maybe an overextension from Kinky Ladder. It's hard to say from here. Melophobia will make sure that no one's pushing this bot for now. Well, they were. They're looking for the Tracer duel.
Looking for the Tracer duel. Daybreak did sneak away just a little bit of extra progress, so we're back to a neutral fight, though. There hasn't really been much meterage across the board for either of these teams, but Putter could be a big difference. Go for the overclock, get up, set up on that angle. Consider Rush still hasn't been used, though, so that might make things a little bit difficult for the targets.
Vader gets dropped there. Amadou just able to Go to work with the pulse pistols. Nice overclock. Putter getting a lot of damage here in Astro. All of a sudden, he's going to turn around and get out of there. But in the meantime, you lost Urana. So even if FACEIT was in play, they would not be long for this world. Citrus Nation, though, only just getting the bot back now and only just getting in the lead. So Daybreak have that Nano coming back up. They can use FACEIT as a blunt object to, again, find that player advantage.
Well, as long as they don't lose anybody here either, then Daybreak can come back in to contest before this bot reaches that first checkpoint.
It's getting a little out of hand now, though. The dive upstairs from Astro just to make sure Daybreak wouldn't flood out of the window. They're going to wrap to the right-hand side instead. Checkpoint gained. That hurts. It might have had something to do with Melophobia being so low and not being able to contest as the Tracer. That's devastating.
Yeah, that's so rough to see.
Great sleep. We like to see those. Astro is... Okay, Primal. I was about to say it. Never get ahead of yourself. Gets out, but again, a beautiful rally. Again, I do think, Rose, that Citrus Nation are playing a weaker comp. This comp is probably a little bit weaker. Outside of, like, the access to Kitsune Rush, it's a tough job for Lethal here up against Putter, who is hitting all of these shots. My goodness, another.
Yeah, it is tough. I think that Lethal is in a bit of a tricky situation. Has the chance to use his duplicate, but look at how quickly they're forced into recall, kind of like... Maybe that's the secret, is just get the duplicate online and then become something else?
I mean, Lethal's playing the same way. He's playing the same way. Just boots on the ground this time around.
Yeah.
Get that pulse there against Thunder. If I was here, I'd be absolutely fuming. That was Lethal, obviously, with like free life, essentially. Playing as a veritable 6 player. And getting a free kill virtually on the break.
Baller Steve is going to switch over to the Kiriko, so a bit more utility and just extra healing coming up from Daybreak.
Okay, you can also deny these pulse bombs, which we just saw are a problem. Especially if we're going to see more of those Tracer dupes. Amadou has one coming up right about now. Maybe looking for Baller Steve to expend that Suzu early and exploit that. Like, come on, it is so hard to play against a Sojun who is locked in like this. Oh, Pada! Absolutely beautiful. Well below par in a good way.
A birdie or an eagle, maybe somebody...
That's right.
People might say.
Does someone say below par is like a bad thing, but actually like you want to be below?
It's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah, you want to have as few points as possible.
So why is that even used in that way? Below par is what you want to avoid.
I guess so, huh? Because you wanted the phrasing would be subpar.
Yeah, but that's good still, right? You want to
That's good.
Whatever, man. Whatever. I'm not a golfer. Don't have that kind of money. I work in esports. Punter picked off here. Thunder with the rally in play. She, though, not able to stand for much longer either. And it's just great focus fire going on here for Citrus Nation. And that lead is kind of blown out, right? It was very close for the first couple of minutes. And all of a sudden, we're looking at a 65-meter issue.
I think it's hard, even though Putter has been able to hit all of his shots, you still need to have follow-up from the rest of the team. And I think Citrus Nation are playing just so quickly that it's hard to actually find your footing and dig your heels into the sand if you are Daybreak. So Citrus Nation, they've got this bot, again, kind of past this corner, but this is a corner they love to play from.
FACEIT again just has to contest. Doesn't really want to let the bot push through here for free. Melophobia caught in the open for a time. Okay, here's Kitsune Rush. They're going for it now. Chaotic as heck. Suzu deployed. Lethal, though. Duplicating a Winston, getting a Primal. Oh, my goodness! Yeah, I'm seeing double. It's monkey magic now for Citrus Nation. And boy, howdy, do they get their hands dirty. FACEIT contesting right now with Primal, so it's probably not going to be a long-lived experience. They won't use that ultimate here. And so that lead extends for Citrus Nation.
If they use the ultimate there, they just feed over so much more ult charge, and then your team is stuck without the tank. Well, this bot routes the corner, so you may as well just have it now. But we're so close to the finish line. There's sub 2 minutes left, and Citrus Nation are starting to just make a mountain out of a molehill climb for the Daybreak team.
Putter here, just having a space with that disruptor shot, using it defensively. FACEIT with the Primal. Astro's doing the same, and it's real cat amongst the pigeons kind of stuff here as that whole backline is getting dispersed. Another nice rail from Putter. But Astro's still able to get in there. And again, now we're stuck in spawn as Daybreak. Citrus Nation only lacking a Tracer for the time being. Another widow switch from Melophobia that worked out on Nepal. This time, though, a dearth of targets. Everyone hiding behind that bot. giving him a free Motorhito while they get ready to push to the end of the map. It's Lethal's focusing beam that deals with Thunder here, and it's desperation for Daybreak. They are throwing everything down, but Citrus Nation looking to bring that endless night. At least FACEIT's going to be seeing that right now. Pulse Bomb for Amadou was good. We've got a duplicated Lucio. Yes, you heard that right. Keeping everyone in spawn. Beat here for Thunder. Out she comes. Still a few players benefiting from that sound barrier for now, but the focusing beam ignores it basically. The Thunder is out of the picture. Now he had the Kitsune Rush. It seems like Citrus Nation decided that that's probably enough for them here. Jacob wins out that duel, though. That's pretty huge. At least Putter's able to trade.
Well, now they get to come back into this one, too, because Winston's also going to come in for the pincer. So the job's not done yet. Citrus Nation still have some fight.
Oh, Lethal. Oh, dear. Okay, Astro definitely stole that. There was nothing friendly about that KS. Regardless, though, Lethal dropped down on Putter. I think they were just not aware. The Echo was hovering above them at the time. There's too much going on here. Faded, wanted to stall, but couldn't get out alive. Primal Rage again. Looking to dash the hopes of Daybreakers. Any chance of a comeback on this map has been taken away from them. This stagger chase kill onto Thunder. Ball of Steve trying to stall things out. And in the end, it's looking to be a full complete as we run out of time now. Either way, it will be Daybreak in overtime for the entirety of the rest of the map, where they're able to salvage things here. Looks like they've been able to do so, but for how long?
Yeah, they have to stick to this bot like glue. At least every single one of these picks that they get is going to be a bit more of a stagger. Thunder's going to come back out on the Moira to be able to get back to the team fast enough. But there's this wraparound from Lethal that could be devastating.
Lethal doesn't have the sticky bombs now, and is being chased. Bit of an opening here left by Citrus Nation. Faded has to stay on the bot. Now you can only really play with 4 players. The Citrus Nation are likely mostly going to take fights away from TS1.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
Okay, we duped a Moira. Lethal living his best life now. That bot is starting to get away from things, but in its wake, Daybreak are being left in absolute shambles. Just Faded on the bot right now. They've got Primal. They're going to go for it. They'll try and stretch it out a little bit more. Kitsune Rush deployed here by Neutral. This is going to make sure they can get the job done. Quite an extended climax to this game that was probably decided about 4 minutes ago. But the result is the same. It's Citrus Nation with a clean 3-0.
It was such a valiant effort, though, there by Daybreak. Chat had a basically 50-50 split on who they thought was going to win this one, but Citrus Nation, I think showing everybody that, like, this is why this is the team that we saw be so close to get into that main event last season. And
Chat loves Daybreak, though. That's probably why the voting was that close. They're a very likable team. But you know what I like even more than Daybreak? I like the team that wins. I like the team that stays alive in the group. I like that a lot.
I'm sure Citrus Nation is right there with you. No, but honestly though, after Nepal, it was a little tough to watch, all right? The stats, especially at the very end, were a little, looked like such a blowout. But as the series went on, I think Daybreak started to make it look more competitive. I think Daybreak's defense on Paraiso, you touched on that, Mitch, during the cast, that wasn't looking half bad. They couldn't string it together on the attack side of things, but still, it wasn't bad. And now also, of course, here on our last map that we got to see, Daybreak started to turn it up. They started to find their stride. They had the right comp. They just unfortunately couldn't finish it out.
Yeah, very quickly, big shout out to Kinky Ladder, who's not neutral at all. It's actually Daddy, who we sort of didn't have that alternate alias for. So I feel bad a little, and then also not bad, because that name is egregious. And so, you know, I'm going to name you something else to make my life easier. But look, I think, like, I like the defense here from Daybreak, right, Rose? I think that was a standout moment for us, you know, for a team that really struggled to leave much of a mark on this series numerically. They looked very good here, this last phase of the map.
They did, and they were just continuing to capitalize after these picks after picks, the over-aggression sometimes out of Citrus Nation, but it takes a good, strong team to identify those moments and capitalize on them. So it's, you know, it did look one-sided in the actual match overall, but I think Daybreak had these wonderful moments, and even more so when you have to bring in, like, a cold player like Putter, who's popping off with these overclocks and these charged railgun shots on the Sojourn.
Yeah, it was really clean. And again, yeah, it's the sad part is, I guess, is that Daybreak aren't able to convert those elsewhere because it comes as a trade, which is fine, sort of keeps you in the fight. But there was constant pressure from this, like, Winston dive comp. Lethal obviously opting not to play the Sojourn here, which I'm sure is sort of very capable of doing, and we know that. Something we saw a lot at the start of this series. Kind of meant that, you're a little weak to the Sojourn. You can just get picked off sometimes, and it maybe puts you at a bit of a deficit here, but elsewhere, in the map and throughout the game, Citrus Nation are able to make up for that disadvantage.
For sure. I think when you look at Lethal's impact on the match, not only was it really nice to see the Sojourn there on Nepal, but I think the Echo, despite all odds, right? You're playing into a Sojourn, you're playing into just all the CC, and you're still making the Echo work. It was really awesome to kind of watch Lethal have those moments as we have kind of come to expect from a player like this.
Yeah, this is kind of what you expect. There's a lot of experience. I mean, and it's important to point out that even before Lethal got onto that sort of London team, they were a staple, an absolute staple in Tier 2, going back 4 years. We're talking Exit Livioni, that Redbirds team, before you went over towards London Spitfire. Even here's a throwback. Shoes Money Crew. Remember Shoes Money Crew? So
I remember Shoes Money Crew.
Yeah, it's not even that long ago now. I think of it, only a couple of years. But really established player. And in a matchup like that, you don't even have to play the optimal pick here, and you can still express your ability and see it really make a mark on the match.